Welcome back to the couch, friends. I'm Crystal, and Christy and Jana are here with me, and we're excited to be back again for episode 3. So before we get to our topic today, I want to do a check-in, see how your guys' week was. I will tell you for my week, I actually had a little bit of extra, and I don't know if this is the way with you guys, but anytime of like a little bit of extra, like it just feels like a lot of extra
things to do.
Yes, like extra things to do, or just extra things in the schedule that kind of are like special things.
Yeah.
That kind of get thrown in there, and it's just like, oh my goodness, like that was a lot of extra, even though it wasn't like a lot of extra.
But on top of your already
normal.
Normal. Very busy.
Yes. Yeah, it gets extra.
You guys are both very busy. More busy than I am.
Yeah. We'll see. I think, I do, because we homeschool, I do send my kids to school one day a week, like school. It's a little community, and I actually lead a class. And so this week was our science fair. So that was like an extra thing. And it was a cool extra thing because, like my kids were really scared. They named, before we went through like the weeks leading up to it, they were like, it's science fear week. They were all so scared of it. They were afraid they were going to do a bad job. They were afraid about speaking in front of, because they had to not just present their project to like one judge. They had to present it to an audience, and then they had to follow up with individual questions by some judges. And
that is intimidating.
So it is. They had to have like a whole oral presentation prepared, and other things. So they were all nervous, but we practiced, and they knocked it out of the park Friday.
Nice.
Yeah. So there were 12 kids total, and I only have 3 kids in my class. The other 9 were from another community, and they all did a great job. All the kids did a great job, but I brought home the first and second place winner. So
wow.
I was so proud of them when I found out like that they won. I was like,
that's
they're
amazing.
gonna be so like flabbergasted, and they totally were. When their names were called, they were like,
that's awesome.
That
is amazing.
So it was really sweet. But as a result of that, I think on Friday I was out of the house for a meeting that was kind of like out of the ordinary, and then I had to come home and like get ready for that, and like with teaching I had to do that and then go to that. So like my house it looks like I haven't been there. I mean, it looks like everybody else has been there. but I haven't.
Because if you're like my house, if you're not there picking up, nobody does, basically.
Yep.
Yeah. So that's what, everything is. And it still is, even though I've had Saturday and Sunday. Well, we weren't home yesterday either. And then I was home this morning, so I tried a little bit, but it needs help. It's all right, though.
I understand.
Yeah. How was your guys' week?
Not too bad. I mean, not too busy, but I don't know. Just a lot of, I guess I do have a lot of things going on and just juggling everything. But I'm trying the best I can. So, but I mean, it was good. My daughter had her first full week of soccer practice this week, and she's really enjoying it. So that was really fun. That's really fun to watch her do. And it's great because now my boys are at an age where, they can be home alone for a few hours, and we can go down the street, and I feel pretty good about it.
Yeah.
So that definitely helps juggle everything. And like as a single mom, I don't know. I think I'm doing a pretty good job of like,
pretty good
this
job.
person needs to go here.
Yeah.
Thanks. This person needs to go there, and I don't know. It's not often I have to ask for help, which is okay to ask for help, but I don't like asking for help. So I like doing it on my own. But
I think we talked about that at one of our very first podcasts. Talk about our kids getting older. It's just a little bit easier.
Yes.
As far as juggling that kind of thing.
It is.
Yep.
But my house was a disaster also. And I texted both of you this morning, and I said, as a true couch friend fashion, my kitchen is a disaster. My house is a disaster. And instead of cleaning it this morning, I was helping one of my kids with a school project. So, I understand.
Yeah.
And no judgment here. And please don't bring judgment.
Never.
Although I did do my dishes before you guys came. So,
well, I was going to say, I think we should introduce
Biscuit.
our newest furry friend here.
Yes, my guy got to come today. Biscuit, he's the one with the green collar, and he just doesn't. Actually, he just settled, but he just does not know what to do with himself.
So we have a total of 5 dogs here now. If you can't see, we have 2 on the couch, and then the other doodles are spread out on the floor.
And Cooper's the youngest and the baby of the bunch, and he, No, but I had a good week, busy week. Lots of, my daughter is looking at joining some AAU basketball, so that's a whole new world that I'm trying to figure out. And we were at a soccer tournament all weekend, and other than that, just same old stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah,
it's a lot of running around.
So hopefully I can get home in time to have some clean laundry for my kids for
I have
tomorrow.
to do that tonight too. Also, that is on my list
because that did not get done. But
same.
All right. So our topic for today is conflict in relationships or friendships specifically. I think we're going to stick to just conflict in friendship today. And I will tell you, I confessed earlier to Christy as we were getting ready. I was like, I think I unconsciously avoided this topic about thinking about it because I think I have like a couple relationships in my life that have a little bit of conflict, and I'm like, I don't want to think about it.
Avoidance.
Yes.
Yep. Yes.
And so I think though, as soon as I admitted to myself that's how I was feeling, I wasn't even realizing that I was feeling that way. And I was like, oh, it's okay. Let's think through this. So I was able to think some, and now I feel a little bit better. But it still is kind of a hard topic because, you know, just the word conflict makes you feel uncomfortable. And even as we were setting up for this, and the dogs, I was like, are the dogs in conflict? Are they okay? Are they playing? Or, oh, she sounds mad. Is she mad? Does she want him to stop? And I was like so worried about it. And they're like, no, they're just playing. Are you sure? Because it doesn't sound like it. They sound like they're upset.
Yeah, no, they were fine. They were fine.
Yeah. So let's talk about, like, when you hear the word conflict, how does it initially like make you feel? What is your gut reaction to that word?
My gut reaction is that I hate conflict. It makes me very uncomfortable, and I avoid it at all costs. Mm-hmm. So I don't have the healthiest relationship with conflict, honestly. Mm-hmm. But at least I recognize that. And I think for me, it's the confrontation that is the hardest part of conflict. Mm-hmm. What about you, Jana?
So I think when I was thinking about this driving home today, I thought conflict in friendships for me, I think I avoid them more so than I do in other relationships in my life.
Yeah.
And because we're a friend, because we're on a friend basis. But I think that I tend to just kind of agree so that there's no conflict.
Uh-huh.
Which probably isn't always great. But then I think we talked about last time how sometimes a friend really wants your true answer or your true opinion, right? But sometimes that can create, I don't know, a little bit of conflict, I guess.
Right.
But also conflict just in general with, say you got an argument or say our kids aren't getting along. I have to usually just kind of step back because if I go, I'll cross the line too quick. Does that make sense?
Sure.
Meaning that I get a little too defensive.
Yeah.
Too quick instead of stepping back. For instance, I had an instance today, and as I've thought about it and as I've run it through my head, the issue, instead of approaching that person right then when I was really upset about it, now 4 hours later, I'm like, okay, I'm still upset, but it's given me time to calm down a little bit.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? Yes. I need to calm down. That's something I need to work on.
But that's a very wise way to approach any sort of situation like that, I think.
Yeah, so I would pretty much say those are my honest feelings too. I would definitely say when I feel conflict arising or a situation where I'm like, I don't agree with what just happened or whatnot, I definitely get like a nervous feeling
Yes.
in my gut. And it's like one of those feelings where you're like, I don't want to deal with that.
Yeah.
So it's better to just, not that it's better, but it's just like, I don't want to feel that. So I need to like leave. Need to
Yes.
get out of here.
It's sitting in that uncomfortable feeling that is difficult.
And I think nerves, but also like I feel like sometimes I feel my blood pressure just
Oh, yes.
start to go up a little bit. I'm like, okay, Jana, it's gonna be okay. Just breathe.
Also, though, when I was thinking about this, I was also thinking about the fact that I think I pick friends that don't really engage in a lot of like drama or conflict. Like there's not like you guys. I mean, I don't know. There's never like a lot of issues or anything like that. I don't know if there are, and maybe you're just avoiding it. I don't know. Tell me, but
Jana's just going along with it.
but I mean,
I'm fuming in the background, and I'm gonna approach you one day.
yeah, just let me have it.
I'm like, see you later.
Crystal's just
Gotta
walking
go.
away.
I guess I would never know, but I mean, from my perspective, or maybe I just pick people who are also avoidant.
No, I definitely agree with that. You get to know people pretty quick
Yeah.
and how they are, and I tend to not that I'm going to be not going to be your friend. Of course, I'm going to be your
Correct.
friend,
Correct.
but I don't like to get into the drama of.
Correct. I don't either,
No.
and I think because I don't like that, I am drawn towards people who are like me in that way.
Yeah,
Because I don't. I can't have a close friend who's like, it's just drama all the time, and there's something wrong with this and something wrong with that. Like I can't. I
Yeah.
can't.
Yeah.
it's too much.
Yeah. So, when we think of conflict in friendship, there's a wide spectrum of conflict, what types of conflict, right? And so I think on one side, there's tiny problems or small problems, or it might be like, I'm having a bad day and so said something and I'm not sure if they meant it that way, where we
Yeah.
have kind of more like maybe a tiny bit of a hurt feeling. All the way to the other side of the spectrum to like feeling betrayed, like maybe something a little bit, well, not a little bit, but a lot of bit harder happened between you and a friend, and you're experiencing just really big feelings of, I thought they were my friend and then they did this thing, and now like, how are we ever going to be friends again? And so I wanted to talk a little bit about that wide range of what would you consider a small problem or conflict versus something that's more monumental, and maybe the ways of handling that, or maybe just we don't even have to yet talk about the ways to handle, but just like, what do we do? Let's go from there, like small to not so small.
That's a good question.
Yeah.
For the small, I believe if in my case, I would just let it go, because I mean, when you're in relationship with humans, we all are going to say or do something at some point that is going to hurt somebody, whether it's intentional or not. I think if there is something small that comes up in a friendship, I try to assume the best about them, that it wasn't meant as something, to be hurtful. And I think when you get into more of the really, when you're on the spectrum of like betrayal, I mean, I think at that point, the relationship is, in my opinion, it's not something that I would want to continue with. I guess it does depend on what it is, but honestly, if you can't trust somebody, then I don't see what the point is in investing in any kind of relationship with them. So I don't know, but that's just me,
Mm-hmm.
especially in a friendship, because, you know, I don't know.
Yeah.
I guess this is a hard one for me because I don't think I haven't had a friendship where I've ever, I mean, yes, we've had small conflicts, right? But I don't think I've had a friendship where I've ever felt betrayed.
Me either.
So it's kind of
Yeah.
a hard question for me.
Yeah.
And I don't know, but I was thinking about betrayal. Sometimes I think with betrayal, it leads up to the monumental event or whatever it is that happens. There's a lot of things that usually build to get to that point.
Right.
And maybe they haven't been discussed. And so then something big happens, or maybe it is one big event. I don't know.
Yeah.
That's a tough one.
Yeah, it really is. What I'm thinking of as I'm listening to you guys talk is, for these smaller offenses, giving the benefit of the doubt, just saying, well, maybe they had a bad day. Maybe, something else is going on in their lives I don't know about.
Right.
Or like this issue in large, like in the grand scheme of life is such a small issue, whatever it is.
Right.
Yes, for sure. Betrayal is definitely like the ultimate
Right.
opposite side. And I will say that I have experienced betrayal, and I don't think that I'm still friends.
Yeah.
Yeah.
With that person, but yeah, it can definitely hurt when you have a certain amount of trust built up in somebody, and then they for whatever reason crush it.
Yeah.
Crush. So it's really hard, I think, to come back from that. I think, can a friendship come back from betrayal? I don't know. Maybe.
Yeah,
Possibly.
depends
Yeah.
on the situation, and honestly, you probably don't even know what you would do in that situation unless you're in it. You can say, like, we can say, well, I would absolutely not do this, or I would not, even consider still being friends with someone. But I mean, I guess it depends on the situation. If they had a true repentance,
What they did.
yeah,
I mean,
change in behavior.
Crystal, I like what you said about sometimes with your friends. I've had this thought many times where maybe there's an off comment or just their behavior. Or I'm just like, you know what? A kind of a feeling or a thought. I wonder if something more is going on
Right.
with them. And then as a friend, you kind of dig deeper with them later. How are you doing? Those simple, how are you check-ins?
Right.
And then you come to find out. And then for me, because maybe I take offense to it right off the bat, but then I'm like, you know what? Okay, no, she probably didn't mean it that way. And I don't know, then on one of your check-ins, you kind of realize it was something, not something big, could have been something small that she was going through, right? But it was just kind of a bad day. We
Yeah.
have bad days sometimes,
Yeah.
where we're just, our patience is done.
Yep.
and it could have been that, but she didn't mean it in any way,
Right.
to hurt me or whatever.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. Have you ever found yourself kind of in the middle of this spectrum where you've had an issue with a friendship that's more than a little trifle thing? It's not completely devastating, but it's enough to make you not want to deal with it or not want to interact with this friend for a while, or feel like, well, maybe should I take a break? I mean, I don't know if you have any answers off the top of your head, if you have to think about it for a second.
I mean, there have been a few friends in my life that are still my friends now, but I do have to just kind of, we just take a break, whether it's maybe don't talk as often, not that we're mad at each other, not that, just kind of step back. Me, when I am feeling frustrated or something's going on, I just kind of need my space
Yeah.
to regroup. And then I'm okay,
Yeah.
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 and I don't know if that's right or wrong. That's just me.
That's just what you need.
Yep.
There's no right or wrong.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I do think there have been times where I have maybe the friendship has just changed because of something, or just, life changes, or maybe decisions that person makes that aren't really, you're just not on the same paths. I don't know. There are just friends that over time, sometimes you are more distant from for whatever reason. Unlike those friends that we talked about last week, those like just really good, like close friends that you could go a year without seeing or talking to, and you just pick right back up where you left off. And like those types of close friends, like it's not the same thing, but there's purpose in every type of friendship that we have in life. The acquaintances have their purpose in our life that we maybe just share the surface things with. And the casual friends have their purpose in our life and their place. And then, as you get closer and closer to your more, close, intimate friendships, those have their purpose and place in their life. And without all of them, it would not be a complete, I don't know what the word is, but there is a purpose in all of those different types of relationships. So
That's
I think it's
to look at it. I like that.
Yeah, if certain friendships maybe fall away as time goes on for whatever reason, they still have a place and a purpose. And it just, as a different time in your life, different season for different things. And I think that's okay.
Yeah. Thank you for saying that. So when earlier I shared that, I'm like, I think I've subconsciously have been like trying not to think about this. I feel like, some relationships in my life where at one time it was a closer friendship, that right now it's more distant, or there's not really anything happening to it. And my heart does feel sad about it. And then it's to a point where I'm like, do I address it? Do I just let it stand? Like, this is just how it is right now. I'm still kind of thinking through that, like what to do. But I love that you said that it's okay. It's okay if we have kind of this shifting of, friends, like, because we all are moving into different areas of our life. Like, I know we've touched on in our last episode about like how sometimes when we're going through hard things, there's going to be certain friends we're going to draw closer to, whereas like we're in a different part of our life where there's going to be other friends. And then I do believe new people are coming in all the time. Not that that's shuffling out older friends, but there is kind of a, like, I can't think of a better word for it than just shifting.
It is a shifting.
Yeah.
That's the perfect word.
Yeah. So let's talk about what your default strategy is for handling conflict. I think we sort of just mentioned it.
Yeah.
But let's talk about it more. So on the spectrum, here, this is a spectrum too, okay? So on this side of the spectrum, you have your escapers. These are the people who are like, I'm hightailing it out.
I'm
and
out of
then
here.
more towards the middle are your people who are like, I'm willing to make peace. Like, let's go through the uncomfortable waters to like see if we can, have a resolution or compromise. And then on the other side, you have the more aggressive engagers, the people who are like, conflict, bring it on. Let's go. And I've experienced all of those. So anyways, let's like, if you had to gauge yourself, where do you go?
Oh man, when you first when you first said that, I was like, oh, that's me right there. Conflict, bring it on. No. But I think that's my initial, like I said before. I'm ready. We're going to talk about this. And then I have to step back. So I think my strategy is step back, take a breath. I know sometimes I have done this with some of you. I call and maybe vent to someone else, talk about the problem, get my, we're not doing this conversation over with.
Yeah.
And then get the advice or tips, and then take a few breaths, and then maybe approach it. And it might not be that day. It might be next time I see that person, reach out with through a text, whatever it is, and then just, you know, say, hey, this really bothered me, or I tend to also ask questions first, because I think sometimes if I question them, then I realize maybe their answers tell me that, oh, they really didn't even mean that
Right.
in this way. They really meant it, or there's more to the story, or, you know, and I figure it out, and then as I'm working it out through them, I'm calming down even more.
I think that's so wise, getting that initial just place to vent, whether it's calling somebody, texting somebody, or even writing something out. I don't know. I've never really been really angry with a friend, but I have definitely been really angry with other people in my life. And just writing the email or the text or whatever, and then deleting it and just responding with like, okay, or something short,
Yep.
one sentence.
Yeah.
There's something very therapeutic and helpful about that. So I think your method is on point.
Good.
Yeah.
Yeah. I would say on the spectrum, I actually after listening to you guys talk, I was like, oh, I'm like sort of both, but I think I try to bring them in to the middle. So on the one end, I'm definitely like, nope, this is uncomfortable. Like, I don't really want to talk about it. Or even if it's like starting to engage in like an uncomfortable conversation, I definitely have. I'm not saying I give into maybe the urge, but I do have the urge to be like, I don't want to be here.
Yeah.
I don't want to be doing this right now. I need like a minute to think through things or whatever. And then sometimes I'm totally on the opposite, where like if I, like this happened to me this week. So I received like a text from a person, and immediately it was like inside me, I was like, what? Like I became like very angry.
Yeah.
Just initially, like that was just my initial reaction. It was an overreaction for sure. So sometimes I will have an instant hi buddy, this is business. Yeah. I will have like an instant overreaction, to where after I take the pause, like you were talking about, where I take a pause and I'm like, let me just think through this. Why did it upset me so much? What is this person trying to say to me? Maybe they didn't say it in the best way possible, but let me kind of think through from their perspective, like what are they trying to ask or say? And then I can be like, okay, that was a little bit of an overreaction on my part. And so I really think there is something very beneficial to the pause, to let the initial emotion, whether it's like avoidant, like I don't want to do this, or if it's like over, like angry.
That's
you
so
know,
true.
Just like, because sometimes even when I'm over on this side of the scale, where I'm like, I don't want to deal with it at all. Biscuit.
He's got something to
I
say
want
on
pets.
this.
Yes. Oh yes, he loves the pets. You know, when you're over on this side, it's not giving into the resistance to run away, but to think, okay, instead of doing that, maybe they need me to engage a little bit, and so I can find out more about whatever it is.
I've never thought about it on that end of it, but it's true, because my initial reaction is to keep the peace, avoid conflict. And so I might not say something if something was bothering me, but taking a step back from even something like that and thinking about it, you know, and then finding a very kind and, you know, just a good way of bringing something up. I think I have to have a time to form my thoughts in my head. So
I think that's a key point right there. I remember my dad growing up always would say, it's all in the approach.
yes.
And I think that's applies here. It's all in the way you approach the person.
Yeah.
If you come at them, you know, kind of aggressively, then it might not go as well, your conversation, right? But if you just go in it and I've learned this, and you know, speaking to from that, you know, it kind of not blaming that person, just questioning, but in a kind, loving way, trying to get to the bottom of it can make a huge difference.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Have you guys ever had an experience with a conflict in a relationship that actually, when you persevered through it, that it actually came out really much better on the other side of it? I know that's a hard question to just pop off. Boop. I'll start though. Actually, in a meeting that I was in just this week, it started out with a great deal of conflict, kind of some conflict that I wasn't expecting, and it was very uncomfortable in the beginning, and but we persevered through it. Like, we listened to, like, okay, here's what, you know, here's my perspective and why I did what I did. And please share with me, like, your perspective and why you did what you did. And it was a very long conversation, but by the end of the conversation, it was like both parties saw, like the person who was initially upset was like, oh, like, I see now why you did what you did. And, like, I can accept that. And I can see how, that makes sense to the situation.
Yeah.
So it was like, it like didn't end bad. Now I know, like, that's not always the case with every single, you know, conflict, but it ended up ending well. And because we persevered through it and didn't let, like, the initial, like, oh my gosh, this person's upset with me.
Right.
Like, we didn't let that be the end game. Like, well,
and that's, you didn't let the emotions, nobody let the emotions take over in that situation.
Yep.
And if you are, I mean, that was clearly a very healthy conflict resolution example. And the people involved, you know, were there to actually resolve it. When you were saying that, my thought was that, you know, perception is reality, right? So two different people, or however many people, come into a situation or a conflict, and, you know, my perception is my reality. Well, your perception is your reality. And if you don't take the time to listen to the other person and try to understand where they're coming from and why they're upset and how they perceived something, there's really no way to come to, like, an understanding of one another. So yeah, I think just being open to listening to that other person. And one of my things that I always go back to, like, especially just in a conversation with somebody where, you know, maybe it is a little bit heated. And again, I'm not talking friendships, because, like, I don't have this in friendships.
No, I
can't. Like, in other situations, like when you are in a highly emotional or conflict situation, you want to listen to understand and not listen to respond. So not entering the conversation with the, you know, you're worked up and you just want to get your side out because, you know, you have something to say and you're upset and this person wrongs you or whatever. If you come into the situation thinking that, then there's not going to be a healthy resolution. So if you can just put those things aside and listen to the person and what they say and try to understand their perspective and what their reality is of the situation, then I think you can start to have healthy conflict resolution.
That can make a huge difference.
Yeah.
Yep.
And if you both do that, that's where it actually
really big
becomes a conflict resolution.
Yeah.
If both people don't do that, I think I don't know, it doesn't work.
well, I think too, like what you're saying, if both people can do that, then the relationship becomes stronger on the other side.
That's true. And you can, you know, strengthen a relationship by resolving conflict with one another. I don't think the absence of conflict means a relationship is good. I think it's how you solve conflict in the relationship.
Yeah.
And I also think sometimes at the end of those conversations, you know, they say, we're going to agree to disagree.
And that's okay.
And that's okay.
Yeah.
And that can be, okay, I still don't agree with you and you still don't agree with me, but we're cool with that.
Yeah.
And that's a resolution.
Right.
You know?
And that's okay. Like, you don't have to agree on everything, and nobody's ever going to agree on everything.
Like, whether you should have butter on the counter or in the fridge.
Oh, don't even get me started.
That's
We just agree to disagree, and that's just how it is.
there's some things that you just got to be okay. We're still friends.
Yeah,
Yep.
drop that
Right?
in the
Yeah.
comments. Do you keep your butter in the fridge or do you keep it on the counter? Let us know.
Like a normal person.
Like a normal person.
So
Just
what
kidding.
I'm hearing you say is that it kind of the Ancient of Days golden rule saying that we should love others the way that we want to be loved,
Mm-hmm.
and others should love us the way that we love them. So it's kind of a two-way thing. Is there anything like just thinking about that rule, I feel like you guys have already touched so much on it about seeing the other person's perspective first before just jumping in with your own perspective, asking them questions about what's going on in their life or why they said something a certain way before just judging, like they said this to be mean to me. Gosh, what else did I hear you guys say? It was so good. I wish I could have had like a little check. Oh, those are so great.
Well,
but
and
just
Doesn't they said something mean to me, like that ties into the golden rule, like don't make it all about you all the time. Like that's just our instinct to be like, well, me, me, or whatever. It's all about me. It's not all about me. It's about the other person too. They're a person too. And so yeah, I think.
And Christy, like you said, going into it thinking I'm going in to talk to this friend to understand why they said it this way, or to understand them, to listen to them.
Yeah. Not to tell them why they wronged me and why they shouldn't have.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's loving one another.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
yeah.
That's good advice.
And, I was thinking you guys are great advice givers. It's so good. Like, that's why you're my friends. Have you ever been on the side where you're the person who wronged the other person? And if you were, what steps did you take to make it better, to resolve the conflict?
I'm sure I have been.
Yeah.
I know. I mean, a small incident comes to mind right off the top of my head, and it was small. And to be honest, I didn't even know that I had offended or hurt that person. I didn't even know until later, maybe 2 days later, they told me that hurt their feelings. And I think I was taken back because I was so, what do you mean that hurt? Like, I had no intention of, that was not my intention at all for that to come across in a hurtful way, right? Whatever comment I said.
Yeah.
But it did. And that didn't matter that wasn't my intention. It hurt their feelings.
Yep.
That was what was important. And I didn't want to ever offend or hurt that person. And so I think what I had to do was find out what I said, explain myself. And it was one of those, I was actually kind of in a, not in a bad mood, just I was busy the way I responded. And so maybe it came across different. But they told me, but it still hurt my feelings, And so it was, I guess, kind of a lesson too. Just be mindful of the way you respond, the way you say things, because it could hurt other people.
Yeah. But even when we don't intend to hurt people, we will at some point.
Yeah.
All of us. And I mean, I tell my kids the same thing. It doesn't matter if you didn't intend to do something that hurt somebody, you still apologize.
Yep, just apologize.
I'm sorry that I did hurt you, because your intention does not equal how the other person received it all the time.
Yep. And so, yeah, a simple apology, and that's what I did. Apologize.
Yeah.
And I would never meant to hurt you, you know, that kind of thing. So,
Yeah. And I think a key point to apologizing is not following up with the but
Or I'm sorry you feel that way.
yeah,
I hate the buts. I don't like that.
And instead.
Yeah.
Yeah. I am sorry. And if you have something else to add to it.
Yes.
Because you're not taking away from the apology. You can add to it, but also just leave it.
I think it's important to leave the
At, I'm sorry. I am sorry. Yeah.
Yeah. I think giving the person a chance to air out how they feel, and you receiving it, even if it's a bit painful, you receiving it without a rebuttal or like an explanation necessarily. Although, I mean, I feel like maybe sometimes there could be an explanation, but it has to be very tender.
Yeah.
And when that happens, because I think if it's delivered wrong, it can look like an excuse. Like,
Right.
I really had a reason for why I did
Right.
that for you, and it's okay with me.
Yes.
So yeah, for sure, not adding the buts, and but just really receiving that person's, hurt, and giving that sincere apology.
Yeah.
Yeah. I have the word forgiveness rummaging around in my head. How do you, okay, let's say that you're the one who was offended and you're pretty hurt. You're like, man, that stinks. I'm like still pretty sad about it. Even after your friend comes to you and like does the apology thing. How do you deal with the forgiveness part? Like, how does that work inside of you? Because I know sometimes I can receive an apology, but I'm like in the process hurt part where I'm just like,
I think it depends for me on what it was. Sometimes a simple "I am sorry," they acknowledged it, they're sorry, is enough for me. But if it was something bigger, I think once again I need that time. I usually thank them. I appreciate your apology. Thank you for letting me know. But then I think about them as well. So they've done their part. They've apologized. But then there's still me, right? But I'm like still a little holding that grudge.
Yeah. You know the saying, what is it? Something about not forgiving someone is like drinking the poison, and I don't know how the saying goes. There's a saying like that. It's only hurting you.
Yeah.
By not forgiving.
yeah.
But it's hard a lot of times.
It's not easy.
To truly forgive.
Yes. Yes.
But I think it's that you gotta and I'm talking to myself, you have to let it go for your own sake, not for the other person.
And I think there's no time to get into this right now. This certain conflict I'm talking about, but years and years of conflict with this person. And I think the letting go where I decided that, you know what, that doesn't matter. They're sorry, even though I am still holding all these grudges, because what it was doing was taking over me.
It eats away at
It
you.
eats away at me.
Yeah.
And it wasn't healthy.
Yeah.
And I had to just be like, okay. But that took a long time. Actually, just this past year, year before, I decided that, okay, that's just going to be the way it is.
Yeah.
And that's okay.
Yep.
And we're going to move on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that wasn't easy.
No.
But it was freeing for me. And it took a huge weight off,
I think that's what forgiveness is intended to do, is to free you really from the bondage of anger and resentment and all the things that hold you back
Yeah.
from living an abundant life.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. And then I think those are the choices you can make too once the forgiveness comes, depending, on what the offense is and the person and all that. Like, again, we go back to that spectrum of like smaller offenses to like a really huge offense. There, it's like you can decide, you can offer forgiveness no matter what, right? But I think at the end of the day, we decide like this friendship is worth the investment, or this friendship no matter how much I invest into it, is not, I don't want to say the word worth it anymore, but it's time to let it go.
Yeah. Right.
It's time to say goodbye to it.
Yeah.
So, couch friends, we want to hear from you. What do you guys think about conflict? Did you feel like this was a pretty good synopsis of conflict in your life? Have you experienced a huge conflict so much that it's a big rift between you and a bestie? Or do you feel like you have pretty good friendships, even when the small things come up, that you are confident in your friends enough that you can go to them and not worry about them, making it into a big drama, but being able to offer forgiveness and understanding? I hope you do. I hope you have those friends in your life. But let us know what you think, what you loved about what we said, or if you have anything else to add. You can find us on Instagram, Couch Friends Podcast. You can find us on Facebook page, Couch Friends Podcast.
Yep.
We can't wait to hear. All right. And that is it for our episode 3. We'll see you next time.
Bye.
Bye.